All right, let's jump right in. Today, I've got a fascinating logical puzzle for you, and it comes from a place you might not expect, a theological text. It's all about a debate over a core act of worship, but the proof used to settle it is just surprisingly practical. So here's the core of the problem. When we talk about prostration, this act of submission, what are we really talking about? Is it some invisible internal feeling of humility happening inside your head? Or is it a physical movement, something you can actually see with your own eyes? That's the big question we're going to unpack.
Now, we're not going to get into a sermon here. Think of this more like a case study in pure logic and how to interpret a text. The source we're looking at lays out this really watertight argument to solve this exact disagreement.
Okay, so let's make sure we're all on the same page. The act we're talking about is sujūd, or prostration. It's a really central act of worship in Islam. A physical way of showing submission.
And this brings us right back to that main question. If someone says they're prostrating in their heart, is that enough? Or does the act, by its very definition, have to be something you can physically observe? Well, the text we're digging into says there's a clear answer.
So how does the source prove its point? This is the cool part. It points us to a very specific, really high-stakes scenario that's described in the Quran. It's the perfect test case to put both theories, the internal feeling versus the physical action, under pressure to see which one actually works.
And that scenario is called the prayer of fear. It's basically a set of instructions, like a practical guide for how soldiers on an active battlefield can pray without getting attacked. This isn't just theory, it's a real-world procedure.
So, how does that even work? Well, it's a clever system of taking turns. One group of soldiers prays, while the second group stands guard, watching the enemy. Then, and this is the key part, they have to switch places perfectly so the second group can do their prayer. In this moment, the exchange, the handover, that's everything. The entire system's success or failure hangs on this single critical moment.
Think about it. On a battlefield, there's no room for error, no confusion, no hesitation. The coordination between these two groups has to be absolutely, positively perfect for this to work.
Which leads us to the heart of the logical proof. What's the trigger? What's the signal that tells the soldiers on guard, okay, they're done, it's our turn now? How do they know the exact moment to move? And this is where the source applies its logical test. It takes our two competing ideas, prostration as an internal feeling versus a physical action, and basically runs them through this battlefield simulation to see which one survives. All right, let's test the first theory. Imagine you're in that second group, standing guard. If prostration is just a quiet, internal feeling happening inside the minds of the other soldiers, how would you know they've done it? How would you have any idea when they're finished?
The short answer is, you couldn't. It'd be impossible. The whole system would just break down. There's no signal, no trigger, no way to coordinate the switch. The practical instructions just become useless. It doesn't work.
So, what's the answer then? The source points to this very specific phrase in the verse. The second group moves forward when the first group has prostrated. This little phrase, that's the critical clue.
See, the argument here is that the word when creates a condition. It's a trigger. The second group acts after something has happened. And for them to know it has happened, they have to be able to perceive it. They have to literally see it. And all of this leads us to the source's final verdict. The solution to the whole puzzle is found not in some complex philosophy, but in pure, simple practicality. The source basically seals the deal with this powerful, common-sense question. I mean, how can the other group come to pray if they didn't see the first group prostrating? The logistics of the situation demand a visual cue. There's just no other way for it to work.
So the conclusion is really unavoidable. This practical proof forces us to accept that prostration has to be a visible, physical movement. It has to be an observable form that other people can witness.
So in the end, the argument is that you just can't separate the definition of the act from how it works in the real world. The practical, undeniable instructions for the prayer of fear prove that prostration is a physical, visible thing. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? Beyond just this one example, it makes you wonder, how often do we find the true meaning of an idea not in some abstract theory, but just in how it's supposed to work in the real world? How often is practicality the real key that unlocks everything?